Welcome back to another episode of Is It Good? And today we won't be doing so much of a review as it is just kind of sharing my thoughts. Well, that's kind of typical here, but um, this thing actually passed last year, the ending of Bleach Thousand Year Blood War arc. And for those who are fans of, anime as far as back in the day, when you had Bleach, Naruto, and what was the other one? I forget what it was at this time. Pardon me. But yeah, during those days, actually, when we just started in high school, we just started to read manga together as a group amongst ourselves as boys and stuff in high school. I think it was yeah, Bleach was the main manga for us, and I think it was later on that Naruto kind of came, and there was a lot of fanfare about it. So I know there is a generation for whom Naruto is like the OG, but for my generation, Bleach is very much the OG, and I think for the ending of the blood blood war arc, Thousand Year Blood War arc, the ending of the third season, is it, or three is what they've titled it. um yeah, that in there we get more examples of why Kubo is the OG to me, and Kubo is the creator of Bleach. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so one thing. All right, so the two of them kind of meet there, and there's this conflict, right? This conflict stood out to me at the beginning of the two finale episodes. Well, not the two of them, but you know what I mean. Um, and it reminds me of what Kubo does so very well and what kind of captured us in the original Bleach anime. Um, Very early in the episode, we get reminded why he's a genius in the freshman mangaka days. His ability to create tension in places where close relationships make the balance in said places very difficult. And so, in this kind of in the Stern Ritter, this kind of tension between Uriyo and Haschwalth has existed for some time. Um, and it's very reminiscent to me of the tension between the captains in the Soul Society arc, where it's obviously counterproductive for people on the same team to be revealed as actual enemies. He plays this card so very well. Kubo plays this card so very well in the Soul Society arc, and I think that's what kind of made it, like, kind of gave it its teeth, that made it kind of metal. The idea that it's these death gods, they're presiding over the afterlife, and they have this military force, but at the same time within this military force there are these higher ranked officials who they are seen as the most dangerous, but at the same time some of them don't really get along. Some of their personalities are so strong that they clash in some instances. Not only do they clash, but there are actually people who are literal enemies within this thing, to the point where the only thing holding it together is the fact that they're on the same team. Right now, outside of those personalities that clash to that extent, there are also actually secret enemies within the same team. For both these instances, in the Soul Society arc and in the Thousand Year Blood War arc here, um, an example of it would be back in the Soul Society arc was Aizen, who was a secret enemy of it, basically everyone. And here, Ishida is kind of like the secret enemy of the Stern Ritter. And so this kind of interaction that we see taking place between himself and Haschwalth is like, it's quite interesting because we kind of get to see them kind of teetering on the edge of before they fight. Like, is this really gonna happen? Like, is Ishida really a traitor, um, or is he really on their team? And obviously, that's answered later on in the episode, but I just think that he handles that really well. Right. Another thing that I think he does really well is breaking down the shonen genre, um, by kind of the way he creates these magic systems. And I think an ideal example of that to me is Gerard and kind of their fight between the fight between the Shinigamis and Gerard here. A lot of modern anime struggle with this. They create and assign powers very arbitrarily and give caveats when they need to fix the plot. I think a lot of us have had complaints with this. I'm not saying Kubo isn't guilty of that. I'm not saying it's wrong, actually, because Akira Toriyama, who's famous for creating Dragon Ball, and he's very much, that is actually the OG. He's also very well known for writing portions of his story this way, and he managed to create a masterpiece with this style, which is you innovate on the fly and you use things to kind of make the plot convenient in a way. But yeah, we saw in previous episodes but here's the thing, right? A lot of modern anime struggle with these plot convenience powers. Jujutsu Kaisen is actually one of those anime where we love the anime, we love the storytelling, but sometimes the magic system, the way that they use cursed energy and cursed techniques, sometimes a lot of this stuff comes in a little bit too clutch and a little bit too convenient, right? So Kubo assigns many of these powers by theme, right, which is important. Themes that play into the actual themes that play into the actual storytelling theme. So he's put much more effort into it there, into the detail of that, to his detriment sometimes. But when it comes to powers, we saw in the previous episode how the reveal of Shinsui's Bankai heavily employs the use of things like traditional Japanese theater, right? And that was a really interesting fight, but to be quite honest, it was also a bit confusing, right? But if for those who know about Japanese theater, like, this would have been like second nature for them. But I just feel that it's much more interesting when you kind of use themes from the story to help to create the magic systems, as opposed to like arbitrarily creating these systems. And I get it, because if it's a shonen genre, if it's a supernatural genre, it almost has to come with some kind of magic system. But yeah, to see the breakdown of the Soul Reaper fighting the Soul King in different aspects, from his arm, who Mayuri is fighting, to the heart, which they stumble upon early in the finale, which is Gerard here. We see where Kubo is using the breakdown of this deity in a cultural sense to create actual sequences and drive the narrative forward. Now again, for those who know more about Japanese culture, you'll kind of understand what's happening here. They're actually fighting the heart, they're fighting the right hand, and I think is it no, I think it's the left hand, right? And they're also fighting Haschwalth, which in a lot of ways Haschwalth has become um, the 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 right hand of Yhwach, right? And so that's interesting, right? But it's like he's using art, culture, and tradition and things like theater as a scaffolding for how he's choosing to wrap up this story. It's not new, but the detail that he's gone into for this finale is extraordinary and it's definitely noticeable. Um, but one of the things that also makes these fight scenes interesting is the fact that, or makes them remain interesting, is the fact that despite them being the typical shonen fight, these fighters have these shifts, like lethal dose, but they still have arrows, they have the speed, they still have the fighting skill that's equivalent to their rank. And so they very much do get physical in between the philosophical and metaphysical battles happening with their powers. And so remember I said Kubo tends to assign powers based on theme. So a lot of the times the theme that a character is battling, or the theme that a character is supposed to bring forward or represent in the story, their power is assigned based on that. And so you'll often find when characters are battling, it's also like a philosophical and metaphysical battle as well between the themes that their powers or they themselves represent. But outside of that kind of deep layer, there's also the more physical layer of actual fighting that's also happening. So you'll see even the fight with between my boy with the lethal dose Shrift, and even Grimjaw and the others like Yurichi, you kind of see that outside of the lethal dose Shrift, which is kind of like the theme or the philosophical power, or that's like their typical magic in the magic system. You'll also have them having physical abilities, like he still has arrows, he still has speed, still has toughness that's equivalent to his rank, and you kind of see those things still facing off, and those things they still make it very interesting despite, because sometimes the philosophical battle that's taking place, the back and forth of words between the characters, sometimes that gets pretty heavy. So it's good to have kind of like that physical combat still taking place, that action still taking place in between that, to kind of keep it interesting. And this isn't a review to spoil. My bad. This isn't a review to spoil the finale. So I won't be talking too much about like what actually happened in the plot, you know. But yeah, these are just my main points, which I thought. I saw quite a bit of reviews about the finale, but I didn't see that many people talking about these things, and I think these are the things that remind us why Kubo was such a virtuoso in those early days when it was Bleach, Naruto, and whatever else it was. And he's playing up those skills now to kind of wrap up this arc. So I'm excited to see the final wrap up in the next season. The battle between the final battles will be interesting. I'll be honest, I've read the mangas, been reading the mangas like when they like in high school. My friends and I were reading the mangas every week, like every Thursday when the manga would come out, we would read it. And so I've been caught up like on this thing for quite some time. Even when the manga ended, I was reading it every week as well. But it was quite some time ago, so I don't remember the exact details of everything, which I count as a blessing because it means that now, when I'm watching the anime, there is a lot that still surprises me pleasantly. So I won't spoil it for you guys either. You guys can still go ahead and check it out if you haven't. But there's a lot happening in the finale that's like what I would consider brand, like very on brand for Kubo, and also what made us love Bleach, like the OG Bleach back in the day. So if you guys haven't checked that out, please do. It still very much is good. There might not be as much fanfare about it. We have a lot of new anime going on. I know a lot of people are watching Dan Dan Dan. I've thought about doing some videos on that, but I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes as it progresses. Because there's been quite a few anime that started out, with a lot of steam and just uniqueness, and even pulled my interest. When I kind of went and checked it out, and even still to this day, kind of tuning in now and again these days. Anime like Chainsaw Man. Some of them kind of fizzle out in the as they after they become popular and everyone's reading or watching it. Sometimes the mangaka struggle, and that's a whole nother episode. But yeah, listen, Bleach is still good. Like, go and check it out. Trust me. It might not be there might not be a lot of fanfare about it like some of these other manga, but it still very much is really good. And this, Kubo is wrapping up quite nicely. And I think it's not just good; it's like a cut above the rest. He's still showing some of the newer mangakas and anime storytellers how to do shonen and how to innovate, how to kind of subvert the expectations of the genre, because most of the complaints that we have with the shonen genre is that it keeps trying to redo the same thing, kind of like Hollywood. But yeah, I mean, those are my thoughts for now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, share. We have some new videos coming up for the channel. Outside of this type of content, we've been doing some event reviews. I did Agent Sasco's Grateful concert recently, and I'll be doing some more. We went to I would say the end of last year. There was a Freedom Tree concert which I went to, which I'll definitely be doing a video on for those interested in that. But outside of that, I also did intimate concert earlier this year with Buju Banton and Beres Hammond, which for those who most people already know Buju Banton. I don't really have to say who he is, but Beres Hammond is one of our legends of Lovers Rock. So that was a great concert. I'll be doing a video for that as well. So subscribe for that. And again, thank you for tuning in. Drop a like. See you in the next one.